lie begin. Pussy niggas get served. Another bridge to burn. Either live or you learn. Digits get earned. Off the head top, it ain't perm. Never been the type to curl like Big Worm. Catch your fade over your shoulder. Try to test my release. You get deceased. Smoke like the kush overseas from Middle East. No beast. I ain't touched that shit since 12 or 13. Ducking 12 from lurking while we skelling murk things. Gonna clock my life and still laughing most of the timeline. Try to come between me and Fetty, a fine line.
What's good, y'all? It's your boy Zaho Facts here. I'm back once again. And all I gotta say is, man, one time and one time only, objectively speaking, I am gonna say congratulations to the New York Knicks. Oh, I just threw up a little bit in my mouth. They win the series 4-1 over the San Antonio Spurs, 94-90 last night in a really, really good game. Very typical. The only difference I think between this game and most of the series was that it was more of a low scoring defensive affair. But once again, San Antonio in the first half go out to a double digit lead. I think they were up as much as 16 at one point. And then New York just scratched back little by little until the fourth quarter, where they eventually, took the lead. I think before that, the last lead they had in the game was 5-4 in the first quarter. So this is what the Knicks do, man, and you just got to give credit where credit is due. They were, scratching and clawing the last couple of years, losing some heartbreakers, especially last year, losing Game 7 in the conference finals to the Pacers. So they, fired Thibs. In comes Mike Brown, and this is what you get. And 45 points in a closeout game from Jalen Brunson. He deserved Finals MVP for that. I think if OG didn't go 3 for 11 from the field and 1 for 5 from 3, he might have had a chance, just given how crucial of a putback he had the last game to give, to win them to get that game, and then what he's done on the defensive end. Unquestionably, he had a chance for Finals MVP. Cat 1 for 7 was in a lot of foul trouble in this game. Only played 23 minutes. So the fact that they did it without Cat having an efficient game, it speaks volumes about where they are, and they definitely deserve it. And that's me speaking objectively as a Brooklyn Nets fan. Straight up, they definitely deserved it. I think what we got to start talking about with the Spurs is we I think we, and this is myself included to a certain extent, we kind of put Wembanyama on a pedestal that maybe he doesn't deserve quite yet. Um, this series showed me that he isn't as offensively polished as you would want someone that is going to be the face of the league to be at the point he is in his career. I don't think he has that attribute to take over games yet. Like, he doesn't have that thing in him to be like, give me the ball, ISO, I can get any shot that I want on the court. I don't think he's there yet. I think he depends a lot on his size. I don't think he has gotten to the point where he can truly exploit mismatches for what they are, recognize, and just. I think right now he's just at a point where he's really depending a lot on his physical ability versus depending on um, the cerebral and the mind game of playing in the NBA and playing basketball. I think Jalen Brunson is a guy who is very cerebral and knows that he 9 times out of 10 is the smallest guy on the court, but you can see how crafty he is in getting to his spots. A lot of it is a mind game between him and the defender that's on him. I think once Wemby gets to that point where he can, um, beat you up mentally throughout a game, I think that's when you will see his full potential. But just off the sheer talent he still ends up with 19, 14, and 5 blocks. So the Spurs, a lot of people are saying this is a reminiscent series to LeBron's what was it, 06, 07 finals run with the Cavs, where they probably had no business being there. But the difference to me was with LeBron, I mean, in that series against Detroit, you seen him have the ability to take over a game and score 25 straight and keep his team relevant on above ground. And I just think that where Wemby is now, Wemby hasn't gotten to that point yet where he can just ISO anybody on the court and just get a bucket when you need him to get a bucket. And it was really telling throughout this series because they defaulted on numerous occasions to De'Aaron Fox. They defaulted to Dylan Harper to a certain extent, but Dylan Harper actually took advantage of his opportunities. And this series is also going to fall back on Mitch Johnson a lot because at the end of the day, yes, it is your second year being a head coach, but there were decisions early in this series, most notably game 2, where you could have um, adjusted your lineups, not kept Wemby out there. And Wemby's conditioning is one thing that he is going to have to work on this offseason. But at the same time, you cannot um, keep him out there if he is becoming somewhat of a detriment. And what I mean by that is if you don't give him a minute or 2 minute breather between, very crucial parts in the game, then he's gonna settle for 3 pointers. He's not gonna drive to the hoop. He's not gonna get to the line. Um and get you, when you have those 10-point leads or 15-point leads, you want to be able to have some flexibility to let your best players get breathers in between. I think Mitch didn't really do a good job of that, to be honest with you. And it was telling at the end of those games when you see them putting up jump shots that they were hitting no problem in the first quarter, but in the fourth quarter they're too winded to hit those shots. They don't got their legs underneath them. It's a lot that goes into it. Where with the Knicks, Mike Brown is a more experienced coach. He's been there, done that. So he adjusted his lineups correctly. Even when they were losing in game, what was it, game 4, when they were losing by 30, he went to his bench to try to search for answers for matchups to get buckets on the board. Alvarado, a prime example of that, going with Alvarado instead of going with Bridges and giving the Knicks a secondary ball handler on the court to be able to, um, make some plays for some of the off ball shooters like Anunoby, who hit some big threes, down the stretch in that series. That can't be understated. That's a Mike Brown thing. You know what I'm saying? um, where in the past Tibbs would kind of condense his lineups and you would see 7 players play, and then you would wonder why Shaman isn't getting minutes, or why Deuce isn't getting as many minutes. So they did a good job of spreading it, getting their players in, and Clarkson as well. But I I just can't talk enough about what the Mike Brown thing was for the Knicks. Like, to they once the playoffs started, you seen the coaching battles, and you've seen the difference in coaching. And I think with the Spurs, they will learn from this. And if Mitch, is their coach next year, they will learn from this and they will be better. They will be a lot better. I do think that there are opportunities for the Spurs to better their roster where you kind of got your answer in this series with Dylan Harper in terms of what he is. I think that if you decide you go all in with Harper and Wemby as your big two per se, then you can move off the Aaron Fox. And I know a lot of people are gonna, laugh at me and be like, yo, yeah, who wants the Aaron Fox? Who's taking on $55 million? Well, if you attach some picks onto it, if you attach some assets onto it, maybe there's a team out there that will acquire the Aaron Fox. Because at the end of the day, yes, he had a terrible series, and it was like some of the worst things at the most unopportune times. Yes, yes, this is true. But De'Aaron Fox doesn't deserve to be in Shanghai either, y'all. Like, we got to stop it. You know what I mean? Like, he's still a very, very, very good point guard in this league. Had a terrible series. I'm sure he'll have a chip on his shoulder, and wherever he ends up, I'm sure he'll be a very good asset to whatever team he ends up on. But we have to be realistic about the future of him in San Antonio, because I think that ain't gonna happen. So I do think that they're in an opportune situation where they could make a drastic move. They could bring in somebody like a Giannis, depending on what the package would look like. If I'm Milwaukee, I'm asking for somebody like Steven Castle, maybe Vassell. Maybe you add in a Julian Shampenny, and then I need multiple first round picks for something like that. They could also look to be a third team in a Jaylen Brown deal. So, like, let's just say the Celtics do want to go after someone like Giannis, and the Bucks need a third team to take on Jaylen Brown because, given his age, he doesn't fit with the timeline of Milwaukee's rebuild. Then we can go in a situation where the Spurs would be that third team. They would send Castle to Milwaukee. Giannis would go to Boston, and then Jaylen Brown would go to San Antonio. I could also see something like that happening. So the Spurs, they have capital, they have assets, they have to figure out the three guard situation. There's going to be an odd man out, and I just feel like De'Aaron Fox should be the odd man out given his age. Castle and Harper can play alongside each other. Castle's a great two-way player as well. Um, and they're both pretty decent creators for others. So there wouldn't be a traditional floor general per se, because I wouldn't consider either of them that, but the offensive prowess, and that's what Wemby needs. Like I said, with Wemby right now being in a situation where he needs more development offensively to become more crafty, you have to put as many offensive pieces around him. Now, you could also look a cheaper option. With me being a Brooklyn Nets fan, I'm going to bring it up. You could explore the option of dumping De'Aaron Fox's salary to Brooklyn, who has the capital, or salary cap, I should say, to take on a contract like that. Attach some picks onto it, and then you can acquire somebody like Michael Porter Jr., who's on a very, very good contract. He only has 1 year left on it, but it's only making about $25 million. And with his numbers and efficiency that he put up last year as a Brooklyn Net, you bring in that type of catch and shooting and a secondary scorer. So if Wemby's having a bad game, I think he's an upgrade over Julian Shampenny, in my opinion, because he can create on the floor as well as um, catch and shoot. He's one of the better catch and shoot players in the league, and he's a better rebounder than Julian Shampenny is as well. So you bring in somebody like MPJ, who has some championship pedigree, played very well in the finals with Denver a couple of years ago. You can go that route and save some money. And if you look to extend Michael Porter Jr., it isn't going to be as much as paying a Giannis or paying a Jaylen Brown, and you're avoiding the second apron by doing that. So there are options for the Spurs to become better. I don't see the Spurs going away anytime soon. I could see them being in the finals as early as next season, to be honest with you, because the only real true comp to them in the Western Conference at today on June 14th is Oklahoma City. And in my opinion, as long as OKC got Chet, if Chet really isn't showing that growth, especially when he plays against Wemby, then they'll never be able to top the Spurs, unfortunately. And I do get it. You didn't have J Dub, you ain't have Casey Wallace in Game 7, so it could look a lot different. But at the same time, OKC, they got their own cap issues that they're trying to figure out as well, because you're gonna have J Dub making max money, you got Shea making max money, and you got Chet making max money. So there has to be an odd man out there for them to avoid the second apron. Um, for them, or they can just go all in again and try to get another chip. But it's going to be interesting to see what they do. The thing is about them is that they do have draft capital. They have a top 12 pick in this year's draft. So they can still recoup. Even if they do dump one of those salaries, they still can bring in somebody like Mara. So imagine if they get off Chet and they move Chet to a team that could acquire his services, and then they bring in Mara at 12 if Mara was to fall to 12. You'd bring in a big that's just as crafty, just as skillful as Chet, in my opinion. I'm high on Mara. I think he's a really good big out of Michigan, but there's a lot of things that OKC could do as well to keep them right above water. But I think San Antonio can make a drastic move to make them so much better above all these other teams. And if you got Wemby, dude, you make that move. You make that move. You figure it out, and you go all in to make this championship window with him being as young as he is at 22. You can acquire somebody for 4 more years from him to be 22 to 26, 27, and you try to win 3 championships out of it. It's two bare minimum because the West is that wide open right now. And with the way that the draft lottery system is going and the way that the NBA has been in the 2020s with so much parity, the Spurs can be that team that they can be that team that shines out of everybody else to become a dynasty out of it. Now with the Knicks, I do think that they still can repeat next year if they have to work things out with the cap. They have to work out a Mikal Bridges extension. They also have to figure out what they're gonna do with somebody like Mitchell Robinson, who if I'm him, I'm demanding something, with him being a very valuable backup big. Um but in terms of draft capital, they don't have that. They gave up a lot to get Bridges, they gave up a lot to get Anunoby. They don't have serious draft capital for them to make any drastic moves. They can't go after a Giannis. Even if Giannis put him on a short list of teams that he would want to go to, it would take a lot of roster construction for the Knicks to be able to do it. And with them just proving to themselves that they could do it without him, at this point, why even acquire him? The only way that I could see them making a drastic move to try to better the roster in a sense to go get a Giannis is if the Celtics were to like totally reconstruct their team and acquire somebody as good as Giannis that's in the open market, and there's really nobody there. So if the Celtics were to acquire Giannis, I think you just have to run it back with the team you have. You can't get any better than him. Um, in the East, in my opinion, they're declining. The Sixers, they had a really, really good shot. I think this year, I think Embiid is getting worse, and I think that if the Sixers were smart, they would look for a trade partner for Joel Embiid. Somebody like the Golden State Warriors, for example, might be interested in somebody like him. Um, but they're on the decline. I think Cleveland has gotten as good as they're going to get. I think the Pacers are a team that is pretty interesting, in my opinion, because they're a gritty team, they're a young team, and it all depends on Halliburton's Achilles, but they're going to be interesting too. But I still would take the Knicks in a 7 game series over them. Um, so right now for the Knicks, it's like, hey, like realistically, we could get back here if everything works itself out. You don't. I'm not like I don't really fear the Atlanta Hawks of the world. I don't fear the Charlotte Hornets of the world yet in terms of them being a threat to like teams like the Celtics or the Knicks. Um, but I think their window is their window open? Yes. Is the window getting shorter? Yes. I would say that too. Just because eventually these contracts are going to be hard for them to make moves with their bench. And these players are also not getting any younger. The average age, I think, on that Nick team right now is like 28, 29. So they're this year was perfect for them to win it all, given where they are. But in terms of their future, if they can try their best to get multiple championships, but eventually you will see the Mikal Bridges, the OG Ananobis, or even the Carl Anthony Townses of the world get traded. You will see it. It's going to happen. I think Brunson is going to be a Knick until he retires. But I just think that where we are now, I'm glad the season's over. Um, did it end the way that I wanted it to? Nah. I mean, it is what it is. The Knicks, they did the damn thing, man. I mean, you're talking about a team that fucking went like, what did they do? Like fucking 16-3 or some shit, 14-3 in the playoffs. Like that's amazing, bro. You got to give them credit where credit is due. And as a Net fan, it's our time to shine now, y'all. I mean, if you a Brooklyn fan, this is our the off season is our time to shine. You're gonna start seeing rumors about Austin Reeves. You're about to start seeing rumors about us possibly trading for guys like John Morant. So it's gonna be interesting. Draft is coming up in about 9 days, 8 days, something like that. So it's creeping up on us fast. I'm gonna be doing a draft video pretty soon on like prospects, and mainly catered to the Brooklyn Nets, because I am, a sports channel. This is Talking Sporty with Zaho Facts, and I am very, 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 very close to my birds in terms of what I like to talk about. I'm a football guy first, but I do like to talk about sports in general and just sports topics. So this is the first video here where I'm actually talking about the NBA in full totality, and you guys can expect more of that from me. Because at the end of the day, I like to just talk my shit, and I like to talk about all types of topics. So obviously I'll be catered to my birds, but y'all could, if y'all just sports fans in general, man, hit that subscribe button, follow me. I'm gonna be bringing y'all way more as like we get closer to the NBA draft, as we get closer to free agency, as things transpire, transactions are moved. Like I'm gonna be keeping up, I'm gonna be here and I'm gonna be posting shit way more often. But I'ma holla at y'all. It's your boy Zayho Facts. Just talking sporty, and I'll be back, man.